what if I told you that the most organized person you know isn't actually a neat freak, but a survivalist?
Oh, that is such a great way to put it. I mean, we really are talking about survival mechanics here.
Right. Today, we are stripping away the myth that, color-coded spreadsheets, perfectly aligned tools, and hyper-structured routines are about aesthetics, because they just aren't.
No, not at all.
They are about engineering certainty in a world that constantly goes wrong. So for this deep dive, we are unpacking the psychology, the hidden architecture, and the immense practical power of what we're going to call the organizing mindset.
Yeah, and our source material for this is just fascinating. We're looking at the notes, case studies, and reflections of Dave Hartzell.
Right, the HVAC professional.
Exactly. He's an Oklahoma-based HVAC pro with, 4.5 decades in the trade. And he recently explored this exact phenomenon for his own show, which is called Figured Something Out.
And Dave is really the perfect lens for this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because his insights are forged in these high-stakes, highly technical environments. We are taking abstract psychological concepts like cognitive load and conscientiousness and stress testing them on live job sites.
Yeah, classified server rooms, everyday residential driveways.
Right. It is applied theory at its absolute best.
So I want to set the baseline for you, the listener, right from the jump. If you are imagining someone trying to make their garage look like a lifestyle magazine cover, just throw that image away.
Yeah, toss that.
We are entirely discarding the concept of interior design or visual tidiness here. We are exploring a fundamental philosophy of how a person interacts with reality.
Because the aesthetic appeal of a perfectly organized toolbox or, a flawless digital filing system, it's merely a byproduct.
Just a side effect.
Exactly. It is a secondary side effect of the actual primary motivation, which is the aggressive reduction of uncertainty.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit.
Sure. So for people who operate with this mindset, structure acts as a critical emotional regulation tool.
Wait, emotional regulation, like managing anxiety?
Yes. It's an engineered defense mechanism against baseline anxiety. Think about it. When every single item, file, and process has a dedicated, non-negotiable place, nothing gets lost.
Right, and when nothing is lost, the mind is basically permitted to drop that low-level, continuous background hum of worry.
We all know that feeling, that nagging suspicion that you forgot a step or missed an email or left a crucial tool behind.
Oh, I hate that feeling. So let's bypass the standard too many apps open on your phone analogy, because I think we all know what working memory is by now.
Fair enough.
I look at this more like distributed computing. Like, if you are working on a massive data project, you don't keep every single terabyte of data on your local hard drive, right?
Well, of course not. It would crash.
Right, spinning up your fan and throttling your CPU. You externalize it, you build a physical or digital environment that holds the data for you, so your primary processor can run complex heuristics without crashing.
That is a perfect way to look at it. You are forcibly offloading the cognitive burden to the environment.
And that completely shifts our understanding of why people build these systems in the first place.
It really does. It stops being a chore and becomes a literal psychological safety net. There is this quote Dave highlights in his research from a commenter that crystallizes this perfectly. They said, "When I put things in order, I feel like the world makes sense, and I feel safe."
Wow. I feel safe. That is so profound.
Really is.
It's not about being proud at how the shelf looks at all. It's about existential comfort.
Because structure is fundamentally a form of trust. You are negotiating a relationship with your physical space.
Like trusting the tools will be there when you reach for them.
Exactly. When you reach blindly into your tool bag or run a macro on your spreadsheet, you are trusting that the environment will respond exactly as you designed it to. You are building an infrastructure that you believe will not collapse when the pressure spikes.
But let's test that, actually, because the environment does shift, and often violently. Life is not a controlled laboratory.
No, it definitely is not.
We are dealing with supply chain delays, personal emergencies, exhaustion, and just unpredictable variables. How does this hyper-organized trait, which, by the way, sits squarely within the organization facet of conscientiousness, how does it actually hold up when executive function dips and the pressure is really on?
Well, it holds up because the system acts as a willpower failsafe.
A willpower failsafe. I like that.
Right, because we know willpower and decision-making capacity are finite resources. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, especially on a difficult day, your executive function is heavily depleted.
Oh, totally running on fumes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So on the days when you are exhausted, rushed, or dealing with a personal hardship, The physical and procedural systems you built when you were at your cognitive best, they step in to carry the weight.
The system operates so your prefrontal cortex doesn't have to.
Precisely. You don't have to decide what the next step is because the protocol already knows.
I need to push back on this slightly, though.
Okay, go for it.
Doesn't relying so heavily on a rigid system make a person inflexible or robotic? I mean, if I am strictly tied to a protocol, what happens when a massive, unprecedented curveball comes my way? Doesn't the rigidity make me fragile to the unexpected?
It's a completely logical assumption, but the reality of organizational psychology shows us the exact opposite.
How so?
A rigid system for the mundane actually provides incredible cognitive freedom because agility requires spare processing power.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you are bleeding decision fatigue, trying to figure out where the intake forms are or, what order to plug in the cables, you have zero bandwidth left when a genuine anomaly occurs.
Oh, I see.
By automating all the trivial details, you preserve your cognitive capacity for the unpredictable. The routine handles the routine, so the human can handle the exception.
So the system doesn't make you robotic at all?
No, it makes you dangerously adaptable where it actually counts.
Ah, so you are essentially building a moat around your problem-solving abilities. The system fights off the minor distractions so you can fight the dragon?
That is the exact dynamic, yeah.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Testing this willpower theory on your own desk is one thing. But what happens when the system isn't just managing your stapler, but a $30 million classified government network where a single mistake means a federal outage?
Stakes go through the roof.
Right. Because before Dave Hartzell started his own HVAC business, he spent 7 years as an on-site engineer for Sprint. And he wasn't just doing routine maintenance, he was the point man for a classified national infrastructure build.
Which, at the time, was the largest project in the telecom company's history.
Yeah. The stakes here cannot be overstated.
We are talking about a $20 million base project with a $10 million additional classified component bolted directly onto it.
That is massive.
And to put this in perspective for you listening, doing major infrastructural upgrades on a live network is the engineering equivalent of performing open-heart surgery while the patient is running a marathon.
Just constant movement.
Data is constantly flowing. Thousands of cell towers are pinging.
And a failure isn't just an inconvenience. An FCC outage isn't like your home Wi-Fi dropping for 10 minutes. An FCC reportable outage means emergency 911 services might fail for an entire metropolitan area.
It is life or death, honestly.
It means massive federal scrutiny, congressional hearings, and millions of dollars in fines for the carrier. The margin for error is absolute zero.
Which makes Dave's track record on this build just staggering.
Tell me about it.
He delivered this $30 million behemoth under budget.
Unbelievable.
He delivered it ahead of schedule. And crucially, there were 0 FCC outages on that live network. None.
How is that practically achieved? Because you can't just try really hard to not drop a live network.
No, you achieve it through the radical application of the organizing mindset. It is an obsession with preventative documentation.
Preventative documentation?
Yes. Before Dave and his team walked away from that classified site, every single piece of equipment was fully commissioned. And I don't mean just visually inspected, but actively stress tested. Every single door, rack, and fixture was given a specific identifier tag. Furthermore, every system had an operating manual and a maintenance manual physically attached to it, outlining its exact role in the broader ecosystem.
This is where we hit a massive paradigm shift. Think about the depth of that documentation. He isn't doing this to satisfy some mid-level manager's checklist.
No, not at all.
He is leaving a flawless map for a time traveler. The entire underlying philosophy here is that a year from now, at 2 in the morning, a completely different engineer could walk into that classified room during a crisis, look at the identifier tags in the manuals, and instantly understand the architecture of the room without Dave needing to pick up the phone.
And that is the core revelation of Dave's entire telecom career. At its absolute highest level, the organizing mindset isn't actually about the person doing the work.
It's not.
No, it is an act of intense, empathetic, forward thinking. You aren't organizing for yourself in the present moment. You are engineering certainty for the next person who shows up.
I want you, the listener, to stop and think about the last project or file you handed off to a coworker. Did you leave them a time traveler map? Or did you leave them a live grenade with the pin pulled?
Seriously.
Because when Sprint saw the final state of this project, they were so thoroughly stunned by the flawless execution that they basically asked Dave to name his price for his next role.
And his response.
His response was simply that he gave them a job done right instead.
That is an entirely different value system. It is a profound responsibility to the future.
Yeah, it really is.
And what makes this deep dive so compelling is watching how Dave extracts this grand philosophy from a classified multi-million-dollar telecom facility and scales it all the way down to the everyday reality of his current business.
Which is driving an HVAC truck in Oklahoma.
Exactly. The transition is seamless because the philosophy doesn't change based on the budget or the prestige of the job.
Right. He applies the exact same sprint-level standards to residential heating and air conditioning. Let's look at the mechanics of this because it's brilliant.
Let's do it.
Dave uses a field service management software called House Call Pro for his ticketing. And his non-negotiable rule is that every single ticket must be completely documented before the technician puts the truck in drive to leave the customer's home.
Not during lunch.
Nope.
Not at the end of the day when they get back to the office.
Exactly, before leaving the driveway.
Because this combats context decay. Human memory degrades incredibly fast, especially when you are jumping between highly technical jobs.
Oh, for sure. Everything blurs together.
If you wait 3 hours to write down the static pressure readings of a duct system, your brain will start fabricating numbers to fill in the gaps. By forcing the system to demand documentation while the context is completely fresh, you eliminate the possibility of historical fiction.
And the physical work is treated with the same extreme rigor. When his team installs a new HVAC system, it isn't just a plug-and-play appliance.
No, an air conditioner is a dynamic, field-constructed system where the ductwork, the ambient humidity, and the machinery have to exist in perfect thermodynamic equilibrium.
Right. They don't just turn the thermostat down and see if cold air comes out of the vent.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, they fully commission the unit, just like a telecom server.
Wow. Applying server standards to an AC unit.
Yeah. They actively verify the exact subcooling and superheat of the refrigerant charge. They measure the cubic feet per minute of airflow. They calibrate the thermostat. They actively test the drain lines with water.
Let's explain the causal chain here, because this isn't just a fancy checklist to look impressive. If a technician skips measuring the airflow because they are in a hurry, the evaporator coil might slowly freeze over the next 3 months.
Exactly.
Liquid refrigerant could sludge back into the compressor, and a year later, the entire unit suffers a catastrophic mechanical failure. If they don't actively test the drain line, condensation could back up and collapse the homeowner's drywall ceiling.
Verifying these metrics prevents catastrophic future failures. It's that simple.
And then comes the modern equivalent of the identifier tag from his sprint days.
Yes. On top of the physical commissioning, Dave's workflow requires automated before and after photos of the work area. And Dave makes a very specific point about these photos. They are not for Facebook.
They are not for slick marketing brochures either.
No. They are absolute, undeniable proof of the state of reality when the technician walked away. It establishes an indisputable historical record, it protects the homeowner, and it protects the business.
It's the ultimate frictionless paper trail built directly into the process.
But here is where this everyday application gets really fascinating from a sociological perspective, specifically regarding the dynamic with the customer.
Oh, I love this part.
Dave observes a phenomenon. When you operate with this level of engineered certainty, you immediately start to attract and recognize the people who operate the exact same way.
The highly organized homeowners.
Yes, the ones who keep meticulous maintenance logs, who have a dedicated color-coded file folder for every appliance warranty in their house. They end up being the absolute best customers to work with.
Which might sound totally counterintuitive to anyone who has worked in client services.
Right. Usually you'd think the hyper-organized, meticulous homeowner would be the most demanding nightmare client who hovers over your shoulder with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
But they are demanding, yes. More importantly, though, they are prepared. And in any business transaction, preparation eliminates friction.
Because they actually read the detailed line-item commissioning reports Dave provides.
They file the invoices. They actively notice the specific technical steps Dave's team took that the previous, cheaper contractor completely skipped.
Dave sums this dynamic up so brilliantly. He says, the organizing mindset recognizes the organizing mindset.
Yeah.
It's a secret handshake. Think about two highly secure computer servers trying to communicate. Before any data is transferred, they authenticate each other's security certificates. It's a silent, instantaneous handshake.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
When a highly prepared professional walks into the home of a highly prepared customer, that same authentication happens. Instantly, without a single word being spoken, they recognize that they are operating on the same frequency.
And that mutual authentication does something incredible for commerce. It builds a foundation of instant, profound trust.
Right.
When a homeowner who deeply values structure sees a technician who physically refuses to leave the driveway without documenting the airflow and testing the drain lines, all the traditional adversarial friction of a contractor-client relationship just evaporates.
The homeowner knows they're in safe hands because they see their own internal need for certainty reflected back at them in the contractor's actions.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? Synthesizing everything we've pulled from Dave Hartzell's notes, the psychology of cognitive offloading, the high-stakes survival of the $30 million sprint project, and the everyday thermodynamics of the HVAC truck. There is a unifying truth here that completely reframes how we should view our own habits.
It challenges the very core of why we put things away.
The organizing mindset, whether you are engineering a classified federal network or just trying to keep your garage workbench straight, is not a symptom of perfectionism.
No.
It is not an obsession with aesthetics. It is a form of deep, actionable respect.
Respect for the next person who touches your work, ensuring they don't inherit a disaster.
Respect for the customer who invited you into their home, ensuring their environment is safe.
And perhaps most intimately, it is respect for your own future self. The tired, stressed-out version of you 6 months from now who is going to be desperately looking for a specific tool or a critical file.
When you hear the old adage, a place for everything and everything in its place, Dave's lived experience proves that this isn't just some quaint rule for housekeeping.
Not at all.
It is a rigorous philosophy of work.
It forces you to look at your physical environment not as a storage space, but as a support system.
Yes, a support system.
But this raises an immensely provocative question as we close out this deep dive. We've spent all this time talking about physical reality tools, HVAC units, server racks, labeled doors. We know that organizing our physical space to offload our cognitive burden is a profound act of respect for our future selves.
Right.
But what happens when we apply this exact same framework to our digital environments?
Oh, that is a terrifying thought for a lot of people.
Think about your desktop right now. Think about the thousands of unread emails, the chaotic, nested folders in your cloud storage, the files named final version to actual final.
Yeah, we're all guilty of that.
If a cluttered physical room inherently spikes our baseline anxiety and depletes our executive function, what is the hidden psychological toll of a massive, chronically disorganized digital life?
That's a great point.
How do we build these vital systems of respect and engineer certainty for the next person in a digital world where the mess is completely invisible until you are the one actively drowning in it?
So the next time you picture that person who meticulously engineers their physical workspace to absolute perfection, you might want to stop and ask yourself, what does their computer desktop look like? And more importantly, what does yours look like?